The Adventures of Max and the Hidden Treasure. Short story about Max, a curious golden retriever, and his owner Mrs. Thompson, who find a treasure map in their backyard. Their adventure leads to a hidden treasure, making Max a local hero. Reading this story not only entertains, but also helps improve English vocabulary, making it a delightful way to learn the language. In the small town of Willow Creek, there was a dog who everyone knew and loved. His name was Max, a lively golden retriever with a heart of gold and a nose for adventure. Max belonged to Mrs. Thompson, a kind elderly lady who had rescued him from a shelter years ago. Together they were truly great friends, and there wasn't a single soul in town who hadn't been greeted by Max's wagging tail and joyful bark. Max's days were filled with long walks, chasing squirrels, and making friends with everyone he met. But deep down, Max longed for something more, an adventure that would take him beyond the familiar streets and fields of Willow Creek. One sunny afternoon, as Max was playing in the backyard, he noticed something shiny half buried in the ground. Curiosity piqued, he began to dig furiously, his paws sending dirt flying in all directions. After a few minutes of digging, he uncovered an old rusted metal box. It was small with intricate designs carved into the lid, and it smelled faintly of the forest. Max barked excitedly, calling Mrs. Thompson over. She knelt down and picked up the box, her eyes widening with surprise. "Well, what have you found here, Max?" she murmured, brushing off the dirt. The box had a small latch, which Mrs. Thompson carefully pried open. Inside was a yellowed piece of paper, a map faded and worn, but still readable. The map showed a series of landmarks around Willow Creek, leading to a spot deep in the woods, marked with a big red X. "It looks like a treasure map," Mrs. Thompson exclaimed with a laugh. "Who would have thought?" Max's ears perked up at the word treasure. His tail wagged furiously, and he looked at Mrs. Thompson with eager eyes, as if to say, "Let's go find it." Mrs. Thompson chuckled. "You really want to go on an adventure, don't you, Max?" She glanced at the map again and smiled. "All right then, let's see where this takes us." The next day, Mrs. Thompson packed a small backpack with some snacks, water, and the map. She clipped Max's leash on, and they set off together toward the first landmark, a large old oak tree on the edge of town. Max's nose twitched as he sniffed around, his excitement growing with each step. They followed the map through the town, past the school and the bakery, where Mr. Jenkins waved and tossed Max a treat. The next stop was a stone bridge over the creek, where Max splashed around in the water for a while before they continued on their way. As they walked, Mrs. Thompson told Max stories about the town's history, about how Willow Creek had been founded over a century ago by a group of settlers looking for a new beginning. She told him about the legends of hidden treasures and secret passages, though no one had ever found any proof. After a few hours, they reached the edge of the woods. The trees loomed tall and mysterious, their leaves whispering in the breeze. Max hesitated for a moment, sniffing the air. He had never been this far into the woods before, but the thrill of adventure pushed him onward. They followed a narrow path, winding deeper and deeper into the forest. The sunlight filtered through the canopy above, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Max led the way, his nose to the ground as he followed the faint scent of something old and forgotten. Finally, they reached the spot marked on the map. It was a small clearing surrounded by tall pines and thick underbrush. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient, gnarled tree, its roots twisting out of the ground like the fingers of a giant hand. Max began to dig again, his paws moving quickly as he unearthed the loose soil around the base of the tree. Mrs. Thompson watched with bated breath, her heart racing with anticipation. After a few minutes, Max's paws hit something hard. He barked excitedly and kept digging until he uncovered a large wooden chest bound with iron bands and covered in moss. With a bit of effort, Mrs. Thompson managed to open the chest. Inside, to her astonishment, were piles of gold coins, glittering jewelry, and old weathered documents. She picked up one of the coins, turning it over in her hand. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, the markings on it worn but still beautiful. "This is incredible, Max," she whispered, tears of joy welling up in her eyes. "We found a real treasure," Max barked happily, his tail wagging so hard it looked like it might fly off. He pranced around the clearing, his eyes shining with pride. This was the adventure he had been waiting for, and he had done it. He had found the treasure. Mrs. Thompson took a few of the coins and documents, leaving the rest in the chest. She and Max made their way back to town, the afternoon sun casting long shadows behind them. When they reached Willow Creek, the news of their discovery spread like wildfire. People gathered around, marveling at the coins and the story of how Max, the town's beloved dog, had found a hidden treasure. The local historian, Mr. Whitaker, examined the documents and coins. He revealed that they were relics from the early days of the town, left behind by the original settlers. The treasure had been hidden to keep it safe during a time of conflict, but it had been forgotten over the years. Thanks to Max, the treasure was now part of the town's history once more. The coins and documents were put on display in the town hall, where everyone could come and see them. A plaque was even made in Max's honor, commemorating his discovery and his adventurous spirit. Max became a local hero, but he remained the same cheerful, playful dog he had always been. He still greeted everyone with a wag of his tail and a friendly bark. But now there was a twinkle in his eye that spoke of the adventure he had lived and the treasure he had found. And so, Max's days were filled with more than just chasing squirrels and playing fetch. He had become part of Willow Creek's story, the dog who had found the hidden treasure and reminded everyone that even in the most ordinary places, extraordinary things could still be found. As for Mrs. Thompson and Max, they continued to explore together, discovering new paths and enjoying their quiet, happy life in the town they loved. And though they never found another treasure quite like the one in the woods, Max was content, for he knew that the greatest treasure of all was the love and friendship he shared with the people of Willow Creek and the adventures they had together. This is the end of the story. If this story brought a smile to your face and helped you learn some English along the way, don't forget to like and subscribe for more enchanting tales and learning opportunities.